If you are Donald Trump, if you are a businessman with failing properties, a lot of them that lose a lot of money, but you now have the powers of the country's highest office at your disposal, well, sure, call up your hand-picked ambassador and tell him that what he needs to do as your ambassador is he needs to get the British government to get the British Open moved to your golf tournament, moved to your golf club, which is losing money. I mean, what's the point of rewarding one of your biggest campaign fundraisers with this sweet ambassador gig in London if he can't use the ambassadorship? He can't use his job as a U.S. ambassador to try to drum up business for you and the kids. The president has been trying to get away with stuff like this throughout the time that he has been in office. Now it appears that he did get an ambassador to help him do it. It's like another day, another one of these. It never ends. Any one of these would be the biggest scandal of any modern presidency. Any one of them. This is just freaking Tuesday. What does this mean for the president? What does this mean for that ambassador? And for the whistleblowing deputy ambassador who appears to have been fired right after he raised alarms about this back in Washington. Joining us now is Mark Landler. He is the New York Times London bureau chief, and he is the lead byline on this bombshell reporting tonight. Mr. Landler, thank you so much for making time tonight. I know it is especially late where you are, so I'm particularly appreciative that you're here.
Glad to be here, Rachel.
I am elaborating a little bit on what you reported in the sense that I'm expressing my distaste and disfavor for what is in your reporting. But aside from my expressing my opinion, did I get anything wrong about your reporting there? Or did I miss anything important in terms of what you and your colleagues were able to dig up?
No, I mean, I think you did a pretty good laydown of the president's apparent motives in this case. I mean, I think the one thing that's worth sort of emphasizing is the terrible position that this puts career diplomats. This is not what the U.S. ambassador to England is. He's a political appointee, Woody Johnson. But his deputy, Lu Lukens, is a career diplomat, foreign service officer of long standing. And for him and for many of his colleagues, this kind of request is just is really deeply shocking. And as you say, it's not the first time it's happened. So these diplomats are being put into a position that really they could never have imagined they would encounter in their careers.
And let me ask you to expand on that a little bit, because obviously the career diplomats involved here are being asked, as you say, to do something unimaginable by the White House. Woody Johnson, not a career diplomat, a Trump fundraiser, a Trump friend who was put in this plum ambassadorship job. But the way you and your colleagues tonight put this, I thought was really interesting, and I just wanted you to expand on it a little bit. You said, beyond the legal and ethical red flags, asking for such a favor from his host country would put Mr. Johnson in an untenable position as the emissary of the United States. Why would asking for this kind of favor for the president's personal business put the ambassador in an untenable position?
Well, I think for a couple of reasons. One, it would be sending a signal to the British government that the chief emissary of the U.S. government is willing to engage in venal and possibly illegal behavior on behalf of the president. And secondly, for the simple reason that having compromised himself this way, the risk he takes is that if there's a difficult situation, a tough meeting he has to have, a demand he needs to make in the future, his host can say to him, well, you know, gee, Mr. Ambassador, remember when you made that suggestion about the golf course a few months ago? So it's just something that as Norm Eisen, who's an expert on government ethics and also served as an ambassador under President Barack Obama, said in our article, it's really diplomatic malpractice, and it just puts any diplomat, and particularly an ambassador, into an almost impossible position in terms of his standing and his credibility with the host government.
I think that's a really, really important point, because what it means when you sort of take a larger view of that is that not only was the president seeking to use the U.S. government for personal gain, he was trying to get a foreign entity to do something that would provide him personal profit and using the State Department as the lever to do that. But in so doing, he was not only seeking gain for himself, he was actually hurting the interest of the United States in terms of our diplomatic leverage and relationship with, you know, admittedly a close ally, but that it impedes our ability to do the real work that we need to do in terms of sticking up for American interests around the globe.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's why, in the case of Lu Lukens, he was very blunt with the ambassador. According to our reporting, he basically warned the ambassador not to do this. He said it would be a misuse of his position. It would be a breach of diplomatic protocol. It would be possibly illegal. So Lukens, left no doubt that he thought this was a terrible idea. And from what we know in our reporting, Ambassador Johnson was also not thrilled to be asked to do this. I think he understood the position he was being put in, but interestingly, he concluded, for whatever reason, he didn't speak to us about it, that he had no choice but to go ahead and make this, very unorthodox request of the British government.
Does your reporting indicate that that Mr. Lukens was fired as retaliation for him raising these concerns?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. The timing of it would suggest that, and indeed, Mr. Lukens appears to have had a number of issues that he clashed with the ambassador on. But the actual trigger for his dismissal, which is also in the article a bit further on, is that Lu Lukens gave a speech at an English university in which he mentioned a trip President Obama had made to Senegal during the time that Lukens was the ambassador there. And he told an anecdote that was mildly positive about President Obama. And what we are told is that Ambassador Johnson got wind of this speech and summoned Mr. Lukens to meet him and said, "You're done here." So it was also the sort of cardinal sin he made of saying something nice about a president who was his former boss and who he hosted as U.S. ambassador in Senegal. That was the actual event that got him forced out of his job. But certainly a series of other things, including this particular episode, had built up tension between Lukens and the ambassador.